I want to tell you about two phone calls. The first one came on a Tuesday morning in March. I was sitting at my desk in my Brooklyn apartment, 460 square feet, a radiator that made noise all night, a window that faced another building close enough that I could see my neighbor's television from where I worked. I had been sitting at that desk for 3 years. My attorney called. She said the acquisition had been finalized. She said the number, $42 million. I did not say anything for a long time. Then I said thank you. I hung up. I sat there. I looked at the desk. 3 years of that desk. 3 years of building something from nothing, in a city that does not slow down for anyone. I thought about who had been with me during those 3 years. Not many people. The second phone call came 4 days later. My cousin Derek. We had not spoken in 2 years. He said he had heard the news. He said he was so proud of me. He said he had always believed in me. I listened to every word. And I thought about 2 years of silence. And I thought about what was different between Tuesday and Saturday. $42 million. That was the difference. And I started paying very close attention. Let me tell you who I was before that Tuesday call. My name is Marcus. I grew up in Queens, New York. My father drove for the MTA for 22 years. My mother worked in hospital administration in the Bronx. We were not poor. We were the specific kind of working class that is one bad month away from difficult, but has never quite arrived there. I was the first in my family to go to college. Financial aid and loans that took years to think about without anxiety. I graduated at 23. Got a good job at a tech company in Midtown. Stable salary. The kind of job my father understood and mentioned proudly at family gatherings. I quit at 25. I had an idea. Not a flashy idea. Not the kind that arrives in a dramatic moment of inspiration. The kind that builds slowly over 2 years of working in an industry and seeing the same problem exist unsolved. A software platform for small business inventory management. Boring sounding. Genuinely useful. The kind of thing that matters to people once they understand it. I quit. I moved into the Brooklyn apartment. I started building. And almost nobody in my family understood why. The first 6 months were kind of difficult. Not dramatic, just relentless. Waking up at 6 in the morning with the anxiety of someone burning through savings, with no guarantee the thing they are building will work. Going to bed at midnight, having written code that might need to be completely rewritten by morning. Eating whatever was cheap and close, wearing the same 3 outfits, because buying new clothes was not on the list of things that mattered. I told 2 people what I was doing. My father, who called every Sunday morning and asked how it was going, and listened to the honest answer, even when the honest answer was hard. Who never offered money, because he did not have money to offer, and who never pretended otherwise. Who simply showed up on the phone every Sunday morning for 3 years without missing once. And James. James was my roommate at NYU, an accountant in Midtown. Nothing to do with tech, no money to invest. No expertise that was directly useful. What James had was a Saturday. Every Saturday for the first year, he came to the Brooklyn apartment. He sat on my couch. He asked what I needed that week, and he did it. Testing the platform, researching competitors, sometimes just sitting there while I worked, because the loneliness of building something alone in a small apartment is its own kind of weight, and another human in the room makes it survivable. James never asked about equity. He never asked what he would get when it worked. He just came. Because I was his friend. That was it. My father on Sundays. James on Saturdays. Everyone else was living their lives. I understood that. I was not angry. I had made a choice that took me out of the normal rhythms of family and friendship, and I had accepted that as the cost. What I had not fully calculated was what would happen when the choice paid off. The acquisition process started in January. A larger software company had been watching the platform for 8 months. Meetings, numbers, 3 months of the specific intensity of a negotiation that will determine the next chapter of your life. I told my father. I told James. Nobody else. The deal closed on a Tuesday. $42 million. I called my father first. He picked up on the second ring. I told him. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Son. Just son." He could not finish the sentence. I said, "I know, Dad." He said, "Your mother would have." He stopped. My mother had passed 3 years earlier, 6 months before I quit the job. I had lost her, and then walked away from the stable salary, and moved into the small apartment, and started building, and I had carried all of that simultaneously, in the specific way of someone who has no choice but to carry it. She was the one who told me, when I was 12 years old, sitting at the kitchen table in Queens, the difference between people who do the thing and people who talk about the thing is simply that the people who do the thing stop waiting for permission. I stopped waiting at 25. I wish she had seen Tuesday. My father said he was proud of me. I said, "I know." I said, "I will come to Queens this weekend." He said, "I will make your grandmother's rice." I hung up. I called James. He said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Marcus." I said, "I know." He said, "I am coming to Brooklyn tonight." I said, "Bring food." He came. We ate. We talked until 2 in the morning in that 460-square-foot apartment that had been the location of everything. He did not ask what he was going to get. He did not mention Saturdays. He just came with food, like always. That was Wednesday. Derek called on Saturday. 2 years of silence. He said he had heard the news. He was so proud. The family needed to celebrate. He had always believed in me. I said, "Thank you, Derek," and I opened my notes app. I started a list. Derek Saturday, 2 years of silence. Called 4 days after the news. My Aunt Patricia called Sunday. She had always believed in me. We needed to celebrate. My cousin Vanessa called Monday. So proud. Always knew I had it in me. Vanessa, who had not come to my mother's funeral 3 years ago because of a scheduling conflict. My Uncle Roy called Tuesday. Never doubted me. Family supported family. He had some business ideas he had been sitting on for years and would love to pick my brain. Would love to pick my brain. The list kept growing. By the end of 2 weeks, 11 names. 11 members of my extended family who had been largely absent for 3 years and were now present with an enthusiasm that had not existed before a Tuesday call from my attorney. 11 people who had always believed in me. I kept the list. I said nothing about it to anyone. I was polite, I was warm, I said thank you, and yes, we should get together. And I watched. My Aunt Patricia organized a family gathering, her house in Jamaica, Queens, a Saturday in April. Everyone was invited. Food, music, the full production. I said yes. I needed to see the pattern in the same room. I invited James. He said he would come. I walked into that house, and the room shifted. The specific shift that happens when someone walks in who has recently become something the room did not expect. Every one of the 11 people came to me within the first 20 minutes. Proud. Always knew. So happy for you. We should talk. We should talk. That sentence from 7 of the 11 people within the first hour. My Uncle Roy cornered me near the kitchen. 12 minutes about a real estate idea. Wondered if I had any interest in partnering. Derek pulled me aside near the back door. Always wanted to get into tech. Wondered if I had openings at whatever I was building next, or if I knew anyone hiring. Vanessa told me she was thinking about going back for her MBA. Would I write a recommendation letter and potentially help with tuition? Because that is what family was for. That is what family was for. I stood in my aunt's house in Jamaica, Queens, and I received all of it. Every request. Every "I always believed in you" that was arriving 4 weeks after $42 million and 3 years after nothing. I received it with the calm of someone who had been building a list and had now seen the pattern completely. James stood near the food table. He talked to my father. He ate. When our eyes met across the room, his expression said everything. He did not say a word. He did not need to. Follow this page right now. I post new stories every single week, and this story is not finished. The most important part is coming. Follow now and come back. I left the party at 9, drove back to Brooklyn, sat at the desk, opened the Notes app. 11 names. I thought about each one. Not with anger. I want to be clear about that. Not with the hot feeling of someone who has been betrayed and wants everyone to know it. With clarity. The specific, cool clarity of someone who has seen the pattern and now needs to decide what to do with it. Uncle Roy called 2 weeks after the party to follow up on the real estate conversation. I said I appreciated him thinking of me. I wished him well with it. I said it was not the right fit for me right now. He said family supported family. I said I agreed. I said I hoped he was well. I said goodbye. Derek emailed about job openings. I replied that I had nothing currently, and wished him well in his search. Vanessa sent a long message about the MBA and the tuition. I replied 3 days later. I said I was not in a position to help with tuition. I was happy to think about a recommendation letter if she sent me the details. She never sent the details. The calls reduced over the following weeks. The way things are reduced when they are not being fed. I did not feed them. I was not cruel. I was not cold. I was honest. Which in this case meant warm from a distance. A very specific distance. I moved out of the Brooklyn apartment in June. A new place in Fort Greene. Better light. The kind of apartment that takes a moment to walk into for the first time. My father helped me move. Just us, a rented van, a Saturday in June. We carried boxes. We ate lunch on the floor because the furniture had not arrived yet. My father looked around the space. He said, "Your mother would have loved this light." I said, "I know. That is why I chose it." He nodded. We ate our lunch. We did not talk about the 11 names. We did not talk about the gathering. We did not talk about the $42 million, except once, when my father said quietly that he hoped I was being careful with it. I said I had good people helping me. He said, "Good." That was the entirety of that conversation. James came that evening with food. The three of us sat on the floor of the new apartment. We talked until late. James said at some point, "This is a good room." My father said, "Yes." I looked around. I said, "Yes." It was a good room, with the right people in it. Here is what I know now. Money does not change people. I want to say that clearly because it sounds like a cliché, and it is not a cliché. Money does not change people. Money reveals them. The $42 million did not make my Uncle Roy into someone who uses family language to pursue personal financial interest. He was already that person. The money just gave him a reason to make it visible. The $42 million did not make Derek into someone who calls after 2 years of silence because he needs something. He was already that person. The money just gave him something to need. And the $42 million did not make my father into someone who helps me move on a Saturday and eats lunch on the floor and says your mother would have loved this light. He was already that person. He was always that person. The money just confirmed what 3 years of Sunday morning phone calls had already shown me. The same way the Saturdays confirmed James. Pay attention to who is there before the thing. Not the acquisition or the promotion. Or the moment the room shifts and the phone starts ringing from numbers that were quiet for 2 years. Before the thing. Who is in the 460-square-foot apartment? Who comes on Saturdays with no agenda? Who calls on Sunday mornings and listens to the honest answer? Who carries boxes and eats lunch on the floor? Those are the people. Everything else is information. Uncomfortable to receive, necessary to have. My father knows where I live now. James still comes on Saturdays. The room has better light, and it has exactly the right people in it. That is everything. That is all of it. Drop your location in the comments right now. Tell me one word for where you are in your own story. Tell me if you have a James. Tell me if you found out who was real. I read every single one. Follow this page. Share this with someone who needs it.